is going on, guys? Brando Commando back with another video, and it's been a while since I made a video on my YouTube channel, so I'm kind of a little rusty. I just haven't had the motivation. I've been playing a lot of Destiny, and I don't know, for this game I'm not, I haven't had any ideas too much on dropping videos every week like how I did with Trove. It was a lot easier. And this game is just, I enjoy just playing it more, than thinking about what video I'm going to make next. But yeah, guys, I'm finally excited to be dropping a video on Destiny. I've had a few ones in the past, just covering little gameplay stuff. But this one is going to be on build for the Hunter. Specifically the Void subclass, and I just showed you guys demonstrated Legend Lost Sector. I'm currently 13 under, so that's always good when you're under the light level, and it's a pretty smooth run. So that involves the exotic has a big impact on that, and also making sure you're pairing it with the right weapons. But yeah, guys, let's start off into the actual details of the build. So obviously it's the Hunter class, and there's a lot of, if you want to main Void Hunter, there's a lot of good weapons, and you're going to want to work towards getting all those eventually. And what's good about Void is there's a lot of good weapons compared to all the other elements, Arc and Solar. Pretty much a lot of the good Void weapons, it covers everything that you need it for. All different types of fighting, whether you want to use a rocket launcher, you want precision damage, and you want to use a linear, machine guns too, even heavy machine guns that are legendary. There's a lot of good options for Void. But anyways, guys, let's jump into the actual guide. So we'll start off with going into the subclass. Now, there's basically two choices here. Recently, though, roaming supers, which would be spectral blades, would fall into that. They got buffed damage. So I mean, still though, in a boss fight, you're not going to want to run spectral blades. But this would be good, honestly, for lost sectors. For example, what I just did right now, soloing this lost sector, the spectral blades could actually be good for that. But it's only going to have few times where it's good. For the most part, you're going to be either using Mobius Quiver, which is what I was using in that lost sector. And mind you guys, I completed it in a very good time. It was a smooth run, flawless, and there is nothing helping me in this. It's Arc Surge. I had no arc weapons. Strand is shotgun. I wasn't using a shotgun. There is, what is this? Kinetic weapons do increase damage when your subclass element matches an active surge. So I didn't even benefit from that. The only thing that was, I guess, good was that some of the enemies, they had void shields. I think. Did they have shields? Yeah, they're shields. So that helped out. But as far as damage, I was not getting any buffs. So yeah, that just goes to show you, regardless of season 2, this build is going to be good. It doesn't matter what season it's in. Right now we're in Season of the Deep, and it's focusing on Arc and also Void, but these don't even play that big of an impact. And I'll talk about that why in the next video, or I mean in the next when I go into the subclass. So yeah, let's get back into it. So back to the supercharges, Mobius Quiver and Deadfall. So when you're going to be running Deadfall is basically when it's a long DPS phase, and usually when you're running in like groups, so like a dungeon or a raid. And basically this allows you guys, it debuffs the boss, and you're going to do increased damage. So like, for example, a few weeks ago, Grasp of Avarice was farmable on Master. So I was like really farming out last boss. And I probably did it like, 100 times, because I was trying to farm for Artifice Armor, which I ended up getting pretty good rolls, which allowed me to get 100 mobility and resilience, almost 100 discipline, but honestly these are the main two. But yeah, so final boss, Grasp of Avarice, it's a longer DPS phase, and this Deadfall is really good. It allowed us to one phase the boss. So basically the way it is if it's a long DPS phase and you have all your heavy ammo, run Deadfall. If it's like a shorter, phase, you're using heavy ammo throughout whatever you're doing, and you're not going to have max. It's like, for example, a dungeon, you hit your rally flag, and then you go into the boss fight, right? And then you do little quick mechanic, and then you're starting the boss fight, and you have like full heavy ammo usually. That's why it's good with Deadfall, because this is basically just about weapon damage. This is a burst supercharge, and this is good for, Nightfalls, Lost Sectors, certain raids too. You can run this. You can just use it for boss damage. So generally I'm running Mobius Quiver more, I would say, than Deadfall. Let's jump over to the class ability. You're for sure going to use Marksman Dodge. The reason being is because it has the shorter cooldown, and we want the fastest cooldown so we can get back invisibility faster. And on top of that, this is also good for boss damage because it reloads your weapon. So really good there. For your movement ability, it doesn't matter, but triple jump has always been the best one in my opinion. So I would go with triple jump. Snare Bomb, this is the only void melee for the hunter, and it weakens targets, so you can use it as like a little debuff. Like when I was doing that Lost Sector, I threw the Snare Bomb first on the boss, and then I shot my Mobius Quiver, and then I shot my linear shots or whatever. So you can kind of use this strategically on stronger enemies like champions, mini bosses, bosses, things like that. It has about like an 8-second duration. It actually recently got buffed. It used to have like a 4-second duration. Now it's like 8 seconds. So, I mean, 4 seconds is a joke. You know what I mean? You're waiting 1 minute and 30 seconds to throw a 4-second debuff? I don't know. I think that's kind of ridiculous. 8 seconds, it can allow you to at least, get a super off, and then, a few linear shots into the boss, which can make a, better impact on your damage. So for grenades, to me, in my opinion, there's two choices here. If you want to go the route of getting back your dodge, your class ability back faster, you're going to want to run the shortest cooldown slash good damage. So so magnetic grenade is 145 and scatter grenade is 145, but damage wise I feel scatter grenade was better, so that's why I'm running that. And the reason why this will get back our class ability faster is because it has a shorter cooldown, but also we're going to be running one mod of bolstering detonation. Grants class ability energy when you cause damage with a grenade. So, we're going to be getting our grenade back faster, which will allow us to use it more frequently, getting back that energy so we can dodge for invisibility to make sure we have, 100% uptime for volatile rounds, invisibility, and all that good stuff. Now, the other route you can go for the grenade is just, the damage route, and that would be Vortex. But it's a longer cooldown, as you can see. It's about, 40 seconds, or is that like 50? Yeah, like 45 seconds longer. So it's your choice. Now for the aspects, these are the two you're going to for sure use. It's going to be Stylus Executioner. Defeating a weakened, suppressed, or volatile target grants invisibility and true sight. That's the main thing. And then also, after performing a styleless execution, your next melee attack will, while invisible, weakens targets. So, defeating a weakened, suppressed, or volatile target grants invisibility and true sight. The big thing here is we're mainly being able to proc all the time is defeating volatile targets grants invisibility. And the reason why we're easy to get that is because of this right here, the exotic. So this is the biggest impact on the build. You have to get this exotic. And to get this exotic, the easiest way is just to farm lost sectors, which is what I was just doing right now. I was in a lost sector. Today is legs though, so you're just gonna have to wait till it rotates the chest. And this says your void weapons gain volatile rounds after you emerge from being invisible. So every time I come out of invisibility, I'm gonna have volatile rounds. That doesn't just mean like on the first dodge, right? I'm invisibility, I come out, and then it says volatile rounds 9 seconds, and it's counting down. You keep on refreshing this when you get kills, and because what happens is you go back into invisibility, right? And then you come out again, then you have volatile rounds. So it's just a constant loop. So, for example, in Nightfalls and certain things, I'll be like doing the perfect loop easily all the time, right? And I'll maybe have only done a couple dodges throughout the encounter, the Nightfall or the Lost Sector, and I'm still getting volatile. I'm still getting, invisibility. So it's really nice. It's a really good exotic. And then on top of that, which is not used, it doesn't get procced as much, but when you're invisible and defeat a combatant while using a finisher, all of your weapons gain bonus damage. So that's a little neat thing, but it is hard to, make happen. All right, so let's jump back into the next one. Vanishing Step. Dodging makes you invisible. So, really good setup. I've seen in some videos people talking about, using Trapper's Ambush. But the thing that I don't like about Trapper's Ambush instead of like Vanishing Step is that this is based on your melee. And your melee has, it has it has a longer cooldown, versus your class ability. And there's a lot of stuff that you can feed to boost your class ability on getting it back faster. It's a lot easier, in my opinion, than the melee. So, all right, let's jump into the fragments. So here's where the survivability comes into play. Picking up a Void Breach or an Orb of Power grants Devour. So we're going to be getting Orbs of Power all the time. When I go into like my armor mods, you'll see why. And it's really easy with Void Hunter. But yeah, so Devour, this is one of our main survivability parts, aspects right here. And then also Void Breaches, which grants class ability energy. All right, so here is the next part. Ignore the top part. The main is the bottom. Defeating volatile targets creates a Void Breach. So that's why our Void Breaches are going to be dropping a lot, because we're pretty much always defeating volatile targets, which again will grant class ability energy. All right, this one is actually specifically used for stats, getting plus 10 resilience to get 100. I felt that there wasn't really another fragment that I needed to make this build that better, that would impact it. There's only like one other one that maybe if you wanted to use, and that would be like finisher blows, finisher final blows grant invisibility. So that's kind of neat to have, because a lot of the times we end up finishing people, enemies once they get low, and invisibility won't proc unless you have this fragment. So yeah, you could trade that out if you're already good on resilience, but this is for stats. And then the next one is important. Void buffs applied to you. Invisibility, Overshield, and Devour have increased duration. Now what's crazy about the Void Hunter is we're using all of these. We're using invisibility, Overshield, and Devour. And I'll explain in a little bit why we use all of these. Obviously, invisibility, that's obvious. Devour, that's obvious. But overshield, that's not, I'll have to go into that why, and which I'll actually talk about next, because we are now going to weapons. So, I like to ignore season mods, because I want this to be a nice build for, regardless of the season. But let me just tell you, for this season, you're going to get an overshield anytime you pick up a void breach. So that's like, that's not like an insane amount. Like, that's not better than the non-seasonal way. The non-seasonal way is getting weapons that have repulsor brace. And there's a lot of good weapons that have repulsor brace that you're going to use anyway that are awesome. So let's jump into the weapons. So let's start off with the kinetic slot. So for the kinetic slot, this is nothing to do with your element and void's energy. This is strictly, usually kinetic is where you get, you want to be able to stun multiple champions, right, in different ways. So the best gun for that is the Riptide, and you want to get Chill Clip on the Riptide. And what this does is that the Riptide does shatter effects, so it stuns Unstoppable, and it also does slow effects, so it stuns Overload. On the first shot, as long as it's the top half of the magazine, it will instantly stun and Overload. And then for Unstoppable, it takes 2 shots, and then on that second shot, it will freeze the Unstoppable, and then after that, on the next shot on your first gun, right after that, it will say stunned and Unstoppable. So that's why the Riptide is the best, one of the most used guns in the kinetic slot for PvE, because it can handle 2 champions. So it's really, really good. These are PvP guns, so just ignore that. This is just a shotgun that I want to level up eventually. Because I heard in the future, next season, they're going to have a shotgun champion for, the mods. So we'll see, though. Now, conditional finality. This is kind of my little, fun setup. That's cool to use. Now, so for the conditional, there's a secret about it. So the conditional, it stuns Unstoppable champions, but it does not stun Overload, so that kind of sucks. But this thing, you can run inside, you go inside a barrier bubble, if they pop their bubble, and you can keep shooting inside a barrier bubble and like kind of, freezing them and damaging them. You just have to run up close, get inside. So this thing can technically handle Unstoppable and barrier, but obviously the main easy way is just, it stuns Unstoppable. But that's just a little secret about barrier. Alright, so this is just for in raids or dungeons when there's no champions. I like to run the Vorpal Riptide for damage. Wishender, this you can also use for barrier. It's really good in Grandmaster and Master higher difficulties. So let's jump over to the element, the energy weapons. So these are kind of this is like the bread and butter of the build that makes it really fun to use. And there's a lot of options. And you want to have a variety too for different situations, depending on the champion, the range of the enemies, the layout of the area you're in, if it's long range, short range, things like that. So in the Lost Sector that you guys seen me demonstrate, I was using Le Monarch, and the reason is to deal with the Overload. You can basically keep stunning them, and they can't get out of it. So it's like a perma stun. So this is the ultimate Overload counter. It's really good. So this is a really good setup right here. Maybe if it wasn't a precision type boss, I would just throw in Red Herring. Red Herring with these perks is really good. But yeah, so Le Monarch, really is the king of overload champions. Really good. All right, so let's jump over to this sidearm right here. So right here, I was using this sidearm a lot. As you can see, I have enemies defeated 6,708. And guess what this thing comes with? Repulsor brace. So this thing, sidearms do big damage too, by the way. People don't realize, to me, sidearms are the king of close range, better than SMGs and auto rifles. That's why you don't even see like the funnel web, everyone talks about, or the Unforgiven, because the sidearm, to me, it hits hard, it has a fast reload, and this one gets repulsor brace. So hopefully you get your hands on this one at some point, but yeah, it's really good, and it comes with repulsor brace because defeating a void debuff target grants you overshield. And all the targets that we're fighting they're void debuffed all the time because of volatile. So this will be your go-to for close to mid-range type fights. Last season, this thing was really useful because it was barrier. This season, there's no barrier. However, there's always barrier because we have volatile rounds. So volatile weapon rounds counter barrier. So I could really run this and whatever exotic. You can run an exotic in the power, but I could run these two weapons all the time and counter any champion, no matter what it is. Same with this setup too, and this. That's what's awesome about this is volatile rounds cover barrier, and this Riptide covers unstoppable and overload. So it's really, really fun to use. Obviously, like if you want to go into specifics, the Monarch is going to do way better, in like overload or long range champions that are like sniping. And typically the long range ones are sometimes overload. It's weird, as overload is either like a charging champion or it's in the back shooting. Barriers typically kind of passive shooting. So, but yeah, it just depends. All right, so here's the next one. This is kind of a little fun build, weapon to use. I'm honestly not a fan of it because I typically like my energy slot to be a primary, but this is fun. It still is fun, and it's a good little setup you can do using the Wave Splitter. Wave Splitter is the best trace rifle to use for Void, and this season it stuns overload, so it's a neat thing to do. This is a legendary one, and eventually I want to get this one to craft it just to have, because you can get a repulsor brace. So this is a good legendary one to use. Now for the AR, since it's barrier this season, if you wanted to use the AR, the age-old Bond is the best AR, and it comes with repulsor brace. And then there's a couple damage perks. I felt Golden Tricorn was the best. A lot of people used destabilizing rounds on this, like that's considered the god roll. But for specifically in our setup with Void Hunter with Girl Falcons, destabilizing rounds is not the god roll for us. We just want a nice damage trait, which would be that's easy to proc, which is Golden Tricorn. You could go with collective action, but that for that you have to pick up Void Breaches. So so this is just a straight consistent damage buff. When you defeat an enemy, you get a damage buff. So really nice. Then we have the Doom of oh, by the way, this you get from Last Wish, the Last Wish raid. This one is from Kingsfall, and this is pretty much the best Void scout rifle. So if you ever have to use a scout rifle for overload, you can roll with this because it has like god roll perks, explosive payload, and repulsor brace. Really nice. That's probably your god roll for this specific setup. And yeah, and then Graviton Lance. Really fun gun to use. This season though, there's no champion mods for it. But then again, remember though, This covers Unstoppable Overload, and Volatile covers Barrier, so you could still run this and handle any champion. But yeah, guys, Graviton, I would say, is the best, one of the better exotic weapons. So yeah, that's my legendary exotic weapons. Let's quickly go over the the exotic weapons, just to make sure if there's one I don't have that would work good. So no, this one's not good. All right, I have that one. Wave Splitter, yep. Celestial, no, this is more of like a PvP thing, or kinda. It's not this. You wouldn't want to use. Okay, Graviton Lance, really good. Fighting Lion, it can be cool, but they recently fixed a bug where it was doing like insane damage, some weird damage it was doing. So they got rid of that bug. So this is not as good. But I mean, it's not bad. It's just kind of a slow build, you know, like a slow style, you know, constantly shooting your grenade launcher, and the reload's not the fastest, so it's different. Hardlight is honestly not that good. I hope they buff Hardlight because barely anyone uses it. I mean, you can change to different elements, but it's kind of like the jack of all trades, you could say, master of none. So no one's really using it. And I think, okay, Lawrence Driver. Yeah, I mean, you could run this. I still think the other, you know, options are a lot better, and they're primary. Most of them are primary that I talked about. Vexcalibur. I have this weapon. I guess if you want to roll with a glaive, you could, but to me, it's still just better. If you want to use a glaive, don't take up an exotic slot from this. Just run the legendary glaive. Dead Messenger, that's not too, it's whatever. Runus Effigy, Wave Splitter is a better option for this, because they're both trace rifles, but choose Wave Splitter. Just another exotic glaive. Okay, so Collective Obligation. So, a lot of people, they like this one for the pulse rifle. But I tested them out, and I prefer damage-wise. Graviton Lance is way more simple, and it does more damage to me. This, you're changing modes all the time, and I just don't like the playstyle. I feel like Graviton Lance, in the end, consistently does more damage. And this gun's pretty much is a joke. If only they, you know, because since when do you want to be airborne? Oh, Since when do you want to be, you know, airborne and fighting enemies? Like you don't want to be airborne because then you're an easy target. So yeah, that's like a horrible idea of exotic. Okay, so let's jump over to the power weapons. So yeah, there's a lot of good void weapons. So if you need precision damage, you can craft this, and it's the Taipan. It's really good. You're going to want to roll with triple tap and frenzy. But if you're with like raid groups and there's a bunch of people by you like fighting, then you're going to want firing line. I like frenzy just because overall it's getting more use and benefiting me more of the things I do. Like for example, the Lost Sector. Frenzy helped out there. All right, for the exotic rocket. Two-tail fox is good, mainly because of the catalyst. You want to get the catalyst, and that's what makes it good. The only drawback of the two-tail fox is its reload. It doesn't have as fast as a reload, so that's why I have void loaders, so it helps a little bit. And yeah, so that's the exotic rocket. Grenade launchers, I don't use this too often. It just depends. But if you do want a grenade launcher, in general, Regnant is one of the best for boss damage. So, explosive light, auto loading. Alright, so for a nice legendary rocket, a lot of people don't realize, but Red Herring is actually the best as far as competing with the well-known hothead, right? Everyone talks about that. There was some recent testing damage numbers by people doing, and with this exact setup, it was right behind hothead. It was pretty close, and you're gonna want to use enhanced lasting impression, field prep. People don't realize how good field prep is. So for one, you get increased ammo reserves, but people don't realize you need to make sure you're crouching. And basically, with the way this works with red herring, is you're going to crouch and you're going to dish out all your rockets as fast as you can, because you'll have a really fast reload, right? Because you're going to be using field prep, right? Maybe have some void loaders, and then also you guys can't see it here, but when I crafted this for like the masterwork, you're going to want to choose reload speed actually, and this one's going to want to be impact casing, and yeah, so for this you actually want hard launch. You do not want volatile launch, because lasting impression already gives you 100. So you're actually going to want to get hard launch, and that's for your velocity, the the projectile speed. So yeah, basically you, in a typical damage phase, you would dish out all your rockets as fast as you can, crouching and just reloading, and then at the end you'd switch to I would switch to like a Vorpal Riptide, and I would just shoot them away, and you'll do some pretty good damage. For sword, pretty much falls. It's between the Falling Guillotine, or you can craft this and specifically get what you want for this. So it's pretty nice. The other half, so enhanced Vorpal and enhanced Relentless Strikes, good for boss damage. And then obviously boss spec, Jagged Edge, and yeah, this doesn't really matter, but just increases your charge rate. So that's a good setup. I don't have the best setup for a machine gun, really. This is just one that I got from, which raid was it? Deepstone, I think, yeah, Deepstone. But basically this one, if you want a nice legendary, this has a really good god roll. And another one that's good too is the Retro, let me double check, I forgot the name, Retro something. Retrofit Escapade. This one's really good, so these two are really good. Okay, let's jump over. Let's talk about the mods. So this is all Artifice gear, obviously, except the exotic, which I think is kind of BS. They should, to me, exotics at the end or something, you should be able to like add to where you can get that, like, +3 or something, because it's an exotic piece, man. It should be, it should do something stat wise, like the Artifice or something. I don't know, maybe a feature they'll add in later. But yeah, so the idea for stat wise right here is, right, we're always wanting to get our class ability back fast, right? So we're for sure going to want 100, but the main priority though is getting your resilience to 100, then get your mobility as high as you can. You can pull off, you should be able to pull off 2 100s, and then after that you're going to focus on discipline and get that as high as you can. I was able to get in the 90s, tier 9, so hopefully sometime I can eventually get 3 100s, but it is annoying. I think what I would need is, yeah, so I would need to lose some strength. Like, I would need to get basically a better exotic is what I would think. Yeah, because you could see these stats are all like, it's pretty well rounded. So it probably pretty much falls into the, I would just have to hope for an exotic god roll drop, which is annoying for exotics, but yeah, I mean, some of these other pieces too, though, like this one's +11 strength, so obviously if I lost a little strength there, yeah, the head, probably lose a little strength from the head. Probably for legendary, the head is what I would need to get a little better, and then the exotic chest. And technically the gauntlets too, because of the intellect. This is getting like super picky. So if you see, I can reach that. Okay, so let's jump over to the actual armor mods. So heavy ammo finder, you're going to want to use 2 of these always. It's always important to try and upkeep your heavy ammo. And then you're going to use harmonic siphon or void. It's the same thing. Rapid void weapon final blows, create an orb of power. Let's jump over to the gauntlets. Bolstering detonation grants class ability energy when you cause damage with a grenade. Void loaders ×2. I think is a good choice. You could maybe use a second bolstering detonation, but when I actually tested it, I didn't notice a huge difference. So I just figured I'm gonna get the void loaders. All right, for the chest, I always like to run reserve mods. Sometimes you can run resistance mods if you really need to, but reserves for the most part. I like to run ×3 void weapon surge mods. You could take out one of these and use like a scavenger, but I like to just have always, I feel like I'm getting the most use and impact in my gameplay is with the ×3 surge mods versus just having like 1 scavenger and 2. So kind of your choice there too. All right, let's jump over to the final, the cloak. Class item, for sure, time dilation and Reaper. So Reaper gives you a guaranteed orb when you come out of your class ability and your next weapon final blow. Obviously, time dilation extends your armor charge longer duration, which basically means longer use of your void weapon surge damage increase. Reducing your grenade cooldown when using your class ability, so that helps. And yeah, guys, that is the whole build. At the very end, I'm going to talk about the season mods. It's not the most thing needed for this build. You can use this build any season, but I'll get into it at the very end since it's the least important. But obviously, you get all your champion mods. So if you're a void right now, for this season, you're just going to want to get void authorized mods. That'll make your mods cheaper for void. Then you're going to jump over here and pick up onto the breach. Defeating a void creates a void breach. So we already get void breaches, so this is pointless. As you can see, protective breach. Picking up a void breach gives you an overshield. Refreshes your current overshield. So this helps barely a little bit on all the weapons that you don't have repulsor brace. So this one has it, this one has it, this one has it, and this one, you can craft it to get it. So this one could have it. I don't have that perk though, and then my exotics don't have it. So when I use the exotics, I'm getting the benefit though of the season a little bit, because I'm getting the void. The protective breach, and I don't even have this yet, but this will help a little bit for damage. Picking up a void breach causes your next source of void damage to create a large weakening pulse, so that's kind of neat. I don't even have it yet though. Let me actually spend a point here. I'll just let's see, I'll get arc. I use arc sometimes. Alright, so my final one, I'll get Supernova. And that is everything right there. You guys seen the build at display doing Legend Lost Sector. And there was no surge, there was no void surge, and so you guys got to see it. I was 13 below light. So this is a really, really good build. A lot of good weapons to use. But yeah, that's it for my video. Man, it's way longer than Trove guides, but it's really got to get detailed and making sure everyone understands it, because new players and everything. So yeah, guys, I hope you guys liked my first build video on Destiny 2 Void Hunter. There it is, guys. All right, I'll see you guys in the next video. All right, peace.